Stephanie, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Yay. Okay. Thank you, April, so much. Okay. So when you couldn't hear me, there is a link, and I would love for you to join this link. This session is going to be interactive, and it's going to kind of help us throughout today's session. So again, if you're watching the recording, feel free to pause or click the link. But the link is either on the screen. I'm also going to add it right here in the chat for you to click. You'll sign in with Google or Microsoft, and we're going to get started in just a few moments. Hi, Heather. Yes, it's so good to see you post ISTE. Good. I'm so glad Rachel says hi too. I love you both. Okay, it looks like we almost have everyone on. It's about 9 folks live. So again, if you're watching the recording, this will be available after today's session. The link is right here. So first, I want you to think about the scenario. We've got Miss Johnson and we have Mr. Brown. And so Miss Johnson, she believes her views on AI is she thinks it's a really powerful tool. She thinks it's going to help enhance education. We also have Mr. Brown, who thinks AI should complement but not replace the human interaction. And so I would love for you to grab the Shapes tool over on the right-hand corner, choose any shape, and I want you to vote. Are you more like Miss Johnson, where you think it's going to be a very powerful tool and maybe it will enhance education? Or are you right now Mr. Brown, where you think AI should maybe complement, but maybe not replace that human interaction? So I'm going to set about a 1-minute timer. And again, I want you to come in and I want you to vote. And I really want you to just kind of consider, who are you kind of leaning towards right now at this moment? Is it Miss Johnson, who you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a huge tool that's going to really empower my students and my learners, or more of Miss Brown, it's not going to replace that human interaction? 1 minute starting now. If you're joining us, I'm going to place the link in the chat again. I'm starting to lose my voice, so I'm really sorry if you're like, what is Stephanie doing? I can't even hear her. It looks like right away, a lot of us are agreeing that with Mr. Brown, right? A lot of us are kind of saying like AI should not should complement and not replace that teacher in the classroom, right? But yet I have heard and I've seen some technology where I've seen it start to kind of replace that teacher. And so I'm hoping today we can really kind of lean towards these two different viewpoints and make it so that our students are really having the best of both worlds. So we have, Miss Johnson, who views AI as that powerful way to enhance the education. But then we have Mr. Brown here, who's like, no, we're going to complement it, right? And so with these two, I kind of want you to think about the way that AI is going to be. So I'm going to give you 3 different questions or statements. And I want you to consider who might lean towards that statement, Miss Johnson or Mr. Brown. You're going to use the shape tool again to make your vote. So again, I'm going to kind of read 3 different statements. You're going to decide who might lean more towards that statement. So we're going to be on page number 3 right here. Using the computer to personalize student interest and adding their name towards content. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste that statement onto our board just in case you want to see it. And who do you think this falls more under their belief? Do you think it's Miss Johnson, who views AI as a powerful tool to enhance education? Or do you think it's more Mr. Brown, where AI should maybe complement, not replace that human interaction? So again, we have a computer and it's personalizing the student's interest and adding their name towards the content. Yeah, Sharon, if you're wondering who responded with what, you hover over, you see those initials, but if you hover over again, you can see how Heather voted. So Heather thinks that this one is Miss Johnson. So again, you just hover over again, and you're able to see who responded with what. Another way that I like to collaborate using Kami is coming over here to the +9, hiding everyone's answers, and then I can just come over and I can go, what did Jennifer say? Jennifer agrees with Miss Johnson. So again, I can click on certain students and I can show all my answers or hide them to see how much interaction my students are having within their group. And this is the new version of Kami. So your +9 might be here at the bottom. It's slowly rolling out to accounts as we speak today. Okay, so it looks like a lot of you said Miss Johnson, right? And when I think of this question, I kind of think of no red ink. No red ink already does this, right? It has a computer. The computer personalizes that student's interest by putting it into the questions. And so for me, I would need a little bit more of some information, right? I feel like this could complement me as a teacher, because if I was using that computer, maybe in a station rotation where the students are getting on, they're answering those questions, but then there's another station with a teacher, that might be more Mr. Brown. But maybe if they're just on that computer and Miss Johnson is, doing whatever she does, then it might be a replacement. All right, next statement we have. We have a new student who is in a second, who speaks a second language, has recently joined the class and needs a one-on-one tutorial. So again, I'm going to grab that text box. A new student who is a second language learner has just recently joined our classroom, and this student needs a one-on-one tutorial. Is that more likely Miss Johnson's view or Mr. Brown's? Yeah, I agree. It could be either. I feel like we're kind of voting right now, and it could be either, right? And for this one, I'm going to make you think a little bit more. I'm going to set a 3-minute timer. And what I want you to do is I would love for you to grab the comment tool. You can use text, voice, or audio to record your answer. So you'll just click, if you want to leave a voice comment, you'll just click and start talking. You can also videotape your response, or you can type your response. So again, we're going to go to comments over in the right-hand corner, text, voice, or video, and I want you to justify, why did you pick that person? Why did you pick that person? So I'm going to go ahead and model this. I'm going to go to shapes. Okay, and we have a new student who is a second language learner, has recently joined the class and needs a one-on-one tutorial. So I'm going to go with Mr. Brown. Again, there's no wrong answers. And then I'm going to go over to the comment and I'm going to start typing why I chose Mr. Brown. So again, I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes. And I want you to just consider why you chose that person that you did for this answer. Awesome. I'm loving what I'm seeing here, right? AI can help, but the student also needs experience speaking and listening, right? Students, they might have some issues with their first language, but being able to have technology as a layer, can really support them, especially for SEL. I just remember when I was in the classroom, back when I was teaching students with different disabilities, I would record myself and I would create these tutorials. Recess was a huge pain point for me. And so what I could do as a teacher is I would come in, use the comment tool, record a video explaining what I wanted the students to do after recess. And it was super helpful because those directions I didn't have to repeat over and over again in my classroom. And so I was actually able to build more human interaction by dealing with those students that maybe had some issues at recess, maybe supporting students that were lacking a skill. And so again, I was able to use that technology, and I saw some people even say that AI is really helping students, with translation as well. So love how this is kind of split though, where some of you are like more Miss Johnson, more Mr. Brown. But again, it's all about how we can use these tools to empower our students, right? And then the last one, who do you think this one would go with? So we've got using technology, and we're going to be using the station rotation model. And this is going to support personalized learning, and we're still meeting with our students in a small group. Who do you think would kind of fall under more of that belief? Miss Johnson or Mr. Brown? Awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning more towards Mr. Brown as well, where it's kind of talking about how, technology, the AI can support our students, but maybe not replace, right? I'm still a teacher in that small group, building relationships and meeting with my students. So now there's a couple statements, and I want you to use the rating scale to kind of just rate where you fall. AI should help identify and support students who are struggling academically or emotionally. Do you strongly disagree? Are you somewhere in the middle? Or do you maybe strongly agree about that statement? So, again, AI should help identify and support students who are struggling academically or emotionally. I agree. I feel like I'm somewhere in between neutral and strongly agree, right? I think if we have this data, we're able to kind of take it and really support our students on top of all of that information rather than sorting through all of the different data in pieces. The next one, AI should respect and protect student data privacy while fostering a safe learning environment. Do you strongly agree or strongly agree with that statement? We're on page 7 if you're just joining us or if you're lost track of where we were. AI should respect and protect student data privacy while fostering a safe learning environment. Yeah, I think a lot of us really agree with those data privacy and keeping our students safe. The last one, AI technologies can assist in development of social emotional learning skills by providing stimulations and scenarios for students to practice empathy, cooperation, and communication. Do you strongly disagree or do you agree with that statement? Awesome. Yeah, and this one I'm kind of like the neutral round again. There's been a lot of studies, and a lot of these studies are talking about this hormone that's released when we learn. When we learn, it's oxymoron, and what this hormone does is it builds a stronger connection with the content, and we usually have this with another human being. And so I'm just kind of wondering, how can we release that hormone if we're dealing with a computer, right? And so those are just some things that I'm kind of considering thinking about. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to weigh our options and then we're going to talk about strategies. So I want you to think, when should AI be used to build relationships? When should we use AI? When should we be a little bit cautious? And maybe we're like, I don't know yet, right? And so I want you to think about, when should we maybe use AI to help us build relationships? So me personally, I think it's okay to use AI. And you can grab either the comment tool or you can grab the text box. And I think, it's okay to create like this or that, or would you rather prompts. So again, I'm going to set that timer for about 3 minutes for us to just kind of think about different scenarios and when is it okay to use AI to build those relationships? When is it not? All right, thank you guys so much. I love seeing your responses here and just being able to really focus on, we think, hey, it can really help with differentiation, right? It can support that teacher in that way. We can also use it to help us build lesson planning. It should, we should kind of be cautious when we're thinking about our students and assessments, using AI to create personalized learning, right? And those strengths and weaknesses, tracking data over time. The I wish I teacher a new idea. I love that one. Yes, yes, yes. So thank you guys for sharing those ideas and feel free to come back to this, right? Um, yeah, I don't know either with the bilingual families, right? To discuss students. I don't know how I feel about that yet, or is it privacy and consent? Is it bias? All of those great things to consider. So what can we do with this tool that we have in our tool belt, right? And so again, we want to start with relationships. And so when we're starting with relationships, there are a ton of different templates that we can use to really help us build those relationships in our classroom. A lot of times when we're thinking about those relationships, we really want to think about do our students feel safe in our classroom? Do they feel safe to try new things, to experience ideas? And so maybe one of those activities you would do is, I wish my teacher knew that first day. Maybe you find some this or that activities, and you can have your students decide on what kind of version they might be. So if you search in the Kami library, there are a ton of templates in here. And I can have my students do a collaborative activity just like we're doing right now. And they can vote. They can decide on pizza or spaghetti, television or a laptop. And I know these are really simple activities, right? But with these activities, I can also kind of get to know my students. I'm also able to provide them with justification skills along the way. Why did you pick waffles over pancakes? Why do you prefer sunrise over the sunset? And I can have those discussions and really listen to the conversations that my students are having. Another thing that we've kind of noticed from up here is if you try to move or delete somebody else's annotation, you're not able to. I can't move or delete this annotation that JK has just wrote about. So Jennifer, she wrote this great explanation. I'm not able to remove or delete it using Kami. So I love to do collaborative activities such as this or that, where my students are voting for their favorite, and because they can't move somebody else's annotation, they're only able to move or delete their own. So it makes collaboration at ease, because before, when I would try to collaborate with my students, I would just have some issues, right? When I was trying to collaborate with them. And so because of that, I'm able to really kind of allow them to have their say. And then I can have that conversation to build my students up where they're at. So again, we want to always start with relationships. And just like this example up here, where we were talking about using video, right? How can I use video to keep building student relationships while students are just trying to get that one-on-one tutorial, right? When can I come in and support my students as that relationship and let technology maybe take over some of that part? Yeah, it's really important with our younger ones too, right? They're happy clickers, right? And they accidentally delete. So true, so true. The next one is organizing our learning. So here's a couple different ways that we can organize our learning. There's sequence charts or roadmaps. And what you can do is you can use, somebody suggested it up here, is using AI to help you personalize, or like Heather said, differentiate based on your students' needs. So I can go over and I can kind of create a lesson, and I can use Google Slides, or I can use this activity right here in Kami, and I can type what I want my students to do. I love to use roadmaps, and I'm going to show you a version in Google Slides as well. Here is one that I've created with math. I just went into ChatGPT and I said, hey, I need to teach my students, how to do multi-digit multiplication. It gave me a couple different ideas. And so then what I can do is I can use roadmaps to support that backwards design and planning. The goal is I want my students to create a video of them solving multi-step directions. I also want them to complete these 4 questions in their mastery check. And so I have that big goal of what I want my students to do, and I break it down into these smaller sub-steps. So this allows me to have my students learn through each other and through videos and through conversations while I'm able to meet with my students one-on-one or in small groups. And so what I can do is I like to open this up right into Kami. I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. And so I don't have to repeat my directions 700 times. I will come in and I will create small videos to support my learners. So I will create a video explaining what I want them to do. I can also go over and create a screen capture if I want to share my screen and explain what I want my students to do. There's also a way where I can come in here to create questions AI, and I can convert some of these questions or generate some of the questions on page number 7. And it takes about 20 seconds, but then I can use that formative assessment data to allow me to kind of see, has my students mastered those questions or have they not mastered those questions at all? And I can, again, use that data to help me pull small groups and work with my students to really, really support them. So again, the sequence charts where students are moving from one end to the next. Roadmaps is another term I've used. And again, it's just a slide deck. And then I come in and I can kind of just map it out. Now, what I love that Heather said is that she was talking about differentiation. And so I can also come up here to this little toolbar up here, this toolbox, and go to split and merge. And what I love to use split and merge for is I can have my roadmap laid out and I can say, hey, this is for my low, students. Duplicate, this is for my medium, my middle. Duplicate again, and this is for my high. And I can come in and remove anything, rearrange anything that I might need to move around in order to differentiate and support my learners. And then all I have to do is export this either to Google Drive or I can open it right into Kami and I can create those video or accessibility features to support my learners. Okay, so I wanted to see in the chat we have Sharon. Is there a way to have students register for Kami in a way that is both confidential, known to their teacher, but anonymously? So kind of there is a way to link this to your learning management system. And so what I can do is I can go up here and I can hit create a new assignment. So share, create a new assignment. Kami can work with Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, Schoology, and Canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and create a Google Classroom assignment. If you need additional support, feel free to reach out if you want to see it in Canvas, Schoology, or Microsoft Teams. But I'm going to go ahead and call this roadmap. And here's where you would decide. Do I want to make a copy for every single student? Or do I want my students to share one copy? You can also set it up so students can't edit the file. They can just see those directions coming on. I'm going to do my entire class. For this class, you could select more. I'm going to choose all my students, but that's where I could differentiate if I wanted to choose. There's feature controls where I can turn on and off features so my students will have access to everything. Or I can say, hey, for this activity, I don't want you to have the shapes tool. I can turn that resource off and it will not show up for my students. Feature control is great for our younger learners who are just trying to learn all of the different tools when it comes to technology. High school students, if they're trying to copy and paste from AI, you can actually turn that off. So they won't be able to copy and paste from ChatGPT, from Google, wherever they're getting their information. They'll actually have to retype that information in, and I'm able to remember those options. I'm
Stephanie?
going to go ahead and assign that assignment. And what is great about this is when I go to my Google Classroom, and I'm actually going to go to a different assignment just so I can show you some other cool features when it comes to our students learning, is I go into my class, I find that classwork, and then I hit open with Kami. This is part of the premium version. So if you want to test it out, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to connect you. So that way you can get a free trial of Kami. So my information is right here. Just send me an email letting me know where you're watching from, and I can connect you with that person. Here I can see all of my students' information in their screens. So I can use this information to quickly make insights about what misconceptions or what extensions my students might be having in their learning. I can see everyone's screen. I can also personalize the information for each and every single one of my learners. So if I notice that student Leslie is on an IEP, I can come in, use the markup tool, and maybe provide that student with a highlighter to help them focus in on this paragraph. Where maybe student Stephanie over here maybe needs a shape, and I need to hide this page so she can't see that page. So I'm able to mask resources based on what my students need. Sometimes I'll upload a blank document so I can come in here and insert scaffolds such as graphic organizers, or so I can add in another example for them to practice and differentiate based again on what my students need. I'm able to just take a screenshot and import that resource for my students. There's also answers. So with those AI questions that we created, I can now view how my students did on that assessment, how they answered, and what misconceptions my students might have. Then I can look at my insights and go, okay, what is my class? What decisions, what data do I need to make on this? They got a 97%. Here's my small groups. Another thing that we're going to talk about is using station rotation, right? And so we could use station rotation and have our students working on different pieces based on our data. So based on that data that came in from those Kami questions AI, I can now pull small groups based on my top, medium, and my lowest scores. And there's my small groups for my station rotation. So I sign a pre-assessment, I take those students, I place them into small groups, and now I'm ready to use that and create those differentiated smaller groups where I'm able to teach my students. After a certain amount of time, my students will move on to the next station and begin to work on that activity. I can also go over here to assessment analyst, and I can notice, oh my gosh, what happened with question number 10, 8, and 7? They scored 42%. What is going on? I can send out a resource to all of my students. This is my UDL button, my Universal Design button. And I can click here, send out that resource, and it's going to go to every single one of my students. So if I added really quick, I'm just going to draw something, update all, update. Every single student is going to get that. So I'm able to use this program and AI questions to really support me and my students by making faster informed decisions based on what my students might need. Every single student, again, is going to get that little highlight on their little screen. So reconsider, how are you going to organize your learning? Is it by roadmaps? Is it by station rotation? There's also a lot of resources here with executive functioning, which we're not probably going to dive into. But there are so many resources here where I can kind of think about, are my students maybe being stubborn, messy, disruptive? What word is it that your students are behaving like? And then I can use this to help me really focus in on those executive functioning skills to support them to become owners of their learning. And then reflection. Reflection can really help when it comes to that metacognition. So providing my students with exit tickets to reflect and think about what they're learning and how are they learning that information. So there's a whole bunch of free templates in this resource for you on exit tickets that you can use, where they can show by coloring an emoji or by comparing using a Venn diagram. So what I would love for you to do is on page number 11, what is one thing you can try tomorrow? What's one small thing that you can do? So you're going to type right here, what's one small thing? Maybe your small thing is you want to start with relationships. Maybe you want to use AI to help lesson plan. And what's your big? What's your someday? What are you striving to get to? This is that small step that we're going to take, but the big step might be I want to use roadmaps in my classroom. That's your big step, right? So again, what's your small step? What's your Monday step? And what's your someday step? Yeah, maybe it's exploring those templates, right? That's your small little step that you can take today. And think about, what is your big goal? What is that big goal that you want to accomplish this school year? Where you're going to think big and you're going to strive for idea. And thank you so much for joining with me today. I had a blast learning with you. I would love for you to fill out this feedback form if you have a chance. And again, if you have any questions or need anything or need help with those small steps or your someday steps, I'm here to support you. So again, I'm going to place a feedback form on the last slide. It's also in the chat. The session is probably not on the feedback form, so you're going to type your name, your email. And then let's see if there's anything. Let's do let's just do the first one, fast feedback with Cami. And then my name is Stephanie. And again, if there's any way that I can support you this school year, please let me know. My information is right here. You can email me or book a time with me at any time, and I would love to support you throughout your journey. But again, I'm loving to see how we're going to use templates, right, to personalize our learning. I know, thank you. How we're going to explore features of Cami, right, to assist us with differentiation. How we're going to use digital technology, create your own activities. So thank you guys again for joining me. If you need anything, please, please, please let us know. I'm happy to support in any way that I can. And I promise, Heather, I will get my voice back very, very soon. Thank you guys.